I was working in nightlife at the time, so I was doing a lot of emceeing. I was doing a party at a club called Happy Endings in New York City, and the party was called Popping Bottles Getting Pregnant. Like, I wanted to have I knew if I was gonna have an alias or an alter persona that I wanted to have an animal name. So I chose zebras because their defense mechanism against their predators is to dazzle camo. And that's when you can't tell which way one zebra is going, and you can't tell which way they're going because they're crossing, and their stripes create this dazzling effect, and it's kind of disorienting. And that's kind of like my musical approach to how like I want my viewer to feel. You can't tell if I'm going to go left or if I'm going to go right, if I'm going to go dark or if I'm going to sing a ballad. I chose the last name Katz because I wanted another animal name, and then to perverse it a little bit, my middle name is Fucking. So it's first name Zebra, last name Katz, middle name Fucking. A lot of people ask me why it took so long to make this album, and I just have to remind them and myself that this is a labor of love. I think in 2012, I didn't know what an album was. I've heard great ones, but I didn't know how to make one, and I didn't realize how much finances are required to put an album out and to put a vinyl out and to pay for press and to have a management team. This was an experience that I had to have on my own. I'm in control of this because I'm independently releasing this debut album on my label ZFK Records under my terms and in a way that I wanted to. So there's a lot of power and ownership in that. Ima Read was the first song that resonated with people and was able to give me a platform to speak and do the things I do. And you know, it was the same track that gave me my freedom to be a creative full time.
I'ma take that bitch to college. I'ma give that bitch some knowledge. I'ma read, I'ma read, I'ma read. I'ma read, I'ma read, I'ma read. I'ma read that bitch.
It's a kind of full circle for me. We're here in Paris in March of 2020, and in May of 2012 was my first time here to meet Rick Owens. And after this interview, I'm gonna go have dinner with him and Michelle and to thank them for their contributions throughout the year and continuous support because I think they've had such a tremendous impact on me and the music I make. Absolutely not. In hindsight, I can look at it and be like very thankful that my music has gravitated and it's inspired anyone, or that anyone think that like I'm at the forefront of any movement or cause. It's very nice to hear, but I just wouldn't think that way because I feel like it's only been 8 years, but that almost a decade, you know what I mean? The media is prone to just challenge and champion my hardships, you know, and why it would be so difficult for me to be who I am and make the music I make if the hip hop community wouldn't openly accept me. And I always thought that it was more so, the queer rap genreization was more so a topic of race than it was sexuality. And sexuality was just a blanket term they could use in order to tackle a bigger issue. Which is otherness. I know how important it is to be visible and to have other black identities exemplified instead of these monolithic characters we see in rap all the time, that I don't necessarily need to adhere to that. And I can make music that isn't specifically rap, you know, and I think having the skin that I have, that's kind of like a blanket term for anyone that they don't know how to identify with or express. They're like, well, it's urban music, and it's that, but it's never country, it's never pop, it's never, you know, blues, you know what I mean? It's never, you know, indie rock, you know, it has to be urban, and I want to work against that. You need to let black bodies make music and be championed outside of the rap arena. It's kind of fucked up that you continue to pigeonhole us. We're talking about queer rap, which is what they're calling one below that, because it isn't just rap, it's queer rap. And I think I was just so vocal against that in my early career because I felt that the work was much larger than that. The world is full of contradictions, and I think that's just one of them. Hip-hop in itself is a form of storytelling for the people that are usually oppressed and the people that have something to fight out against. And that's how it started. And it was like something that will continue to evolve, and I think that people just need to be open to that evolution because there's, you know, tons of people can come within the rap community and do things. I think it's very empowering that anyone can come and make rap music, especially be queer and be accepted within this community. And I think that's the thing about it. We've always been accepting. There's always been queer, brown artists making music. They just didn't have the privilege to come out. And yes, I think coming out is a privilege. And if you think about queer rap and you think about the ballroom scene, there's so many people within that scene that didn't have the privilege of coming out and being accepted by their families, so they had to find their own homes. And that's what I love most about the ballroom community. It's a community that celebrates itself, and it celebrates the positions they're in, and everyone's on an equal playing field, and it's about the work you put in to your craft is what's going to make you stand out and excel, you know what I mean? We look at people like Tyler and people like P. Diddy calling out the Grammys for not being inclusive enough and not letting black people have a platform. Why don't we start our own platform? And within this rap or queer rap genre, why are we leaving trans women out and women of color out and like lesbians out? We look at a song like Ima Read, which also featured in Gina Red Fox. The only thing people wanted to talk about was my sexuality, so she was getting written out of that conversation, and I was against that. Why are we waiting to be applauded by people that don't understand where we're coming from and don't see our work as open and universal as it is? Why are we still trying to commodify ourselves to fit within and be celebrated within these markets that don't necessarily see us? I'm not necessarily trying to be seen in a market that doesn't see me. If I'm going to make myself loud and visible, it's not going to be on their accord. It's going to be because I'm punk and because I want to make a statement and because I have something to say, no matter what my sexuality and skin tone is. I remember watching Paris is Burning with my friend Antonio Blair, La Femme La Doja from the House of La Doja when I first moved to New York. I'd known about the ballroom community but wasn't enthralled with it. It was something that I only saw on television, you know what I mean? So it was definitely something that resonated with the feel and vibe of being other, black, and in New York. And I resonated with the vernacular because it's urban vernacular, it's black vernacular. It was something that went in and out of, you know, the circles I was in. So I am not a ballroom member. Some of the music that I make has influences and it references ballroom culture, but that's not the end-all be-it of what I do. It's just a part of my art and a part of my craft, and I like to blend these worlds because I think if we don't blend them, how else are people going to know about it when it's not being whitewashed by Madonna and or, you know, all these people that kind of give it its sensationalism and then it kind of disappears, you know? And we look at, you know, moments in pop history where Vogue has reached mainstream culture and it will continue to reach mainstream culture because the queer bodies that are creating it are always going to be the ones that are used as a reference but are never being referenced on stage, you know? And that's what upsets me, you know? I wouldn't say my album is a ballroom album, you know? There's some media outlets because they're lazy journalists that heard Ish and they were like, this ballroom track, and it's like, it's industrial as fuck, what are you talking about? But take it, you know? I can't control how people genreize me. All I can do is continue to make work that challenges that. And if it's championed by queers, fucking great. And if it's championed by straight people, even fucking better. You know what I mean? Like, I don't try to set the agenda of what I'm doing specifically based off my gender and my race. I never had to do that. Those were all things that were projected onto me my entire life. In the Ish video, I'm dancing within this white box that I'm in because I have to constantly work against the grain and the boxes people put me in because my work is stronger than that. And my work is attempting to do more. It's attempting to tangle other boxes and engage in other shapes.
You can't condone me, you make me so sick. I know you hate this and wish I wasn't in charge of this shit. I can't own it, I'm grown, I'm big.
My blackness is very political. My body is political. My otherness is very political. And it's gonna make people feel a certain way. And I wanted to dance with that level of oppression, you know, and I think I start that video off with the news anchor saying, you know, there's heightened hate speech and then crimes against LGBTQI community. And, you know, it goes to blackout because I feel like there's been a blackout in covering that. And I wanted to also highlight the fact that black bodies are, you know, more likely to be shot by police officers and that black trans women are being murdered left and right and like not much media is covering it. It also refers to this James Baldwin quote, to be a Negro in this country and to be alive is to always be enraged and to be aware of what's happening in this country. Like I have every right to be upset and to be pissed. Of course, any strong black women like Grace Jones and Lauryn Hill, Nina Simone, I think those people are role models because they had a voice. You know, I look at someone like Nina Simone, who was very political and very outspoken and very aware of her position. And, you know, aware that she was a classical pianist, even though no one would give her the credit for it. And she always fought against it. And I love that. Fight against it. Why not? Why give in and let people write your narrative and put you in a box that you don't necessarily fit in? The same goes with someone like Little Richard, who's the archetype of fucking rock and roll music, and he's still living. And, you know, it's really hard for people to give these archetypes their flowers when they're alive. You know, his work was also whitewashed by Elvis and, you know, Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and Chuck Berry. You know, he was someone that put all of these figures on, really, you know, and like he was extremely flamboyant and different as a black other in the 70s before we had the terminology we have now to identify or disidentify from the standard norms of how people are labeled. I think anyone that can encourage other people to do better and to think outside the box and challenge themselves is a role model or a hero. So I have a lot of them that come in and out of my life, and sometimes I don't even realize it until, you know, 5 to 10 years later, the impact they've had. After the album drops on March 20th, I plan to do a remix package. I also plan to tour the Less Is Moor tour in the fall. Hopefully we'll continue to tour until the summer and spring of 2021. And then I hope to put out another album because I know what goes into the process of making an album now. Keep it going, keep pushing it. I don't think anything should be changed. I think it's great to have a platform that especially focuses on women in the music industry because it's fucking tough. It's tough to be black in the music industry. It's tough to be other in the music industry. And I can only imagine it's equally as fucking frustrating to be a woman in this industry. I appreciate the platform, I appreciate the voice, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this independently. Because I know what it's like to independently support your work and to get people excited about it and to ask people to do things for free because there's a bigger fucking point. And, you know, I resonate with that as an independent artist, and I get it, and it's not easy. And I'm not gonna lie and be like, making this album was so fun. It was really hard. It's very challenging, and it takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of self-doubt. But when you stick to your gut and you stick to your beliefs, then, you know, the best things hopefully uncover.
First thing on it, I'm gonna shit you to piss.